Evening, everybody. Welcome to Spin Legal. It is November the 18th, episode 92 with Angela and myself. And both Angela and I are partners at Invictus Legal LLP. And tonight our discussion is human rights when dealing with environmental damage to the property. So something has happened and something's gone wrong. You've got to deal with it, right?
Like Hurricane Katrina or
not.
Or one of those wildfires,
but let's hope not. But that sort of thing does occasionally happen, right? So if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so at 905-688-5598. Angela's email is angela@weareinvictus.legal. Mine is peter@weareinvictus.legal, and the website is weareinvictus.legal. So there we go. So this is our topic today: tenants' rights when dealing with property damage to the property due to no fault of their own. Say an eavesdrop is damaged or comes up in a storm, and that actual sort of thing does happen all the time. And whether you're
it could have impacts for issues that the tenant is living with, like eavesdrop come off, then all of a sudden there's could be flooding in a tenant's basement.
And these things, it could be, whether you're a tenant or or a homeowner, these sort of things happen all the time, right? This type of thing happens. An eavesdrop comes off, fire damage to your property. I wouldn't wish this upon anybody, but we know that these sorts of things do happen from time to time. Let's say a tree falls on your property. Right? It could happen, right? So, all of these sort of things are in a situation whereby the tenant is in a situation whereby they have done nothing wrong. So it's outside interference, outside situations, but a tenant has got rights and a landlord has responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's start with the landlord. A landlord is responsible for the tenant. Okay, I put that up wrong. A landlord is the tenant's not responsible for the damage, but the landlord is responsible to repair the damage.
Yeah, the landlord is responsible to repair the damage or to arrange for the repair of the damage. So if it's something caused by insurance, covered by insurance, they can call the insurance company, and the insurance company will send somebody down to fix it.
And with all of these sort of things, so if and hey, it's like anything to do with maintenance, has to be a reasonable time. Now, it's not permissible for a landlord to sit there twiddling their thumbs. I've got to figure out next week's lotto before I'm going to even answer the.
You wait 6 years and then they say, "Oh, and you wanted what?"
Yeah, that's not acceptable. And we know that, for example, hey, it's tough, but the eavesdrop fell off, and you speak to your local roofer. Sorry, they're all in Florida. At this time of year, that happens, right? Right. So it is the way it goes, and you may have to wait a while. And the trouble is that sometimes that actually ends up causing a lot of damage. But it's something the landlord needs to take seriously into consideration. And one of the biggest problems, of course, is that corporate landlords are the ones who don't, aren't they?
Yeah, corporate landlords are the ones that are the most laziest, but they got the most money, right?
Yeah.
Like the mom and pop landlords, I think they care a lot more about their properties. And they'll go out and they'll try to make sure they got insurance, get insurance coverage. Corporate landlords, they usually got someone on staff. A lot of times they can see what they do, and they'll see what they can do to help resolve it. But a lot of times, anything big, they'll fix it, and then the next year after that, after they fix it, then they'll have a above guideline rent increase.
Well, that's the cynical view, of course.
Yeah.
Landlords responsible for repairs and meeting property standards. They're also responsible for providing a habitable unit, and arguably at a time when they've got a hole in the wall or the window's been broken with because of the tree falling in it, it's not habitable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But they've got to ensure the unit meets fire safety standards and building code and a number of other local codes.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also got to ensure that they do not interfere with tenant vital services at any time as well. And they may have to give compensation for damaged belongings as well in this type of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the point being is that clearly it's nobody's fault. That what's going on. An accident is an accident, right? But the landlord is responsible for repairs. The landlord is the owner of the property, and they have to deal with things like external repairs, make sure that it keeps to a good state of repair, and that it's that they're fulfilling the obligation under the Residential Tenancies Act.
Yeah, these things happen, and the thing is, like even things like rodent infestation. Hey, the landlord has to be notified, and the landlord has to come back and do something about it, or call pest control, do something.
Yeah. Well, we've had a number of ones this year, including fires.
Oh yeah.
Including bed bugs, red rats, bed bugs, and cockroaches.
Yep, all are unwelcome pets.
Right.
Hey, we all love dogs and cats, but not rats, bed bugs, cockroaches.
Well, the one thing about that, of course, is that they don't all, they all things like cockroaches and bed bugs all come under the providing a habitable unit scenario. So the point being is that again, there can be compensation. You may need to compensate a tenant. Right?
Like if a tenant has to throw away their mattress or something because of bed bugs.
Yeah.
To help them get another mattress.
The other thing that is often said is that a tenant is not responsible for the damage caused by so-called acts of God. I'm never sure what an act of God is, because
does God sign His name on it?
Sorry?
Does God sign His name on these things?
Well, that's exactly my question, because something like Hurricane Katrina could be seen as an act of God, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that was a nightmare for people involved in that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, a tenant has a right to a habitable unit. So, for example, no tenant's responsible for the damage caused by a severe storm, and a severe storm could roll in almost at any time. We've had tornadoes in Ontario, haven't we?
Right? We've had them around the Barrie area and that. We've had a smaller one in Fort Erie and another one in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
I believe Goderich had one as well.
Yep, Goderich had a big one.
Yeah. Right.
For some reason in Niagara region we get the F1s or whatever, the small ones, but Goderich had like an F3.
Yeah. All right. And so each of these, the person living in the unit's not responsible for it. But and the weirdest thing is about that is that, for example, if you were to go through a sixplex, that tornado could run around every unit in the sixplex and damage only one of them.
Yeah? Give me some good ideas.
No, you know the way what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Because, when that sort of thing happens, it's not about it's not about what the what has happened. It's just it's
Eating the clouds.
ravaging across the entire building. And some of these storms, you see some of these storms that come in, particularly hurricanes that come in off the ocean into the Florida air, into the Florida area, and there's whole towns devastated, and
Yeah.
there's a one building standing.
Yeah, and exactly. This is why I wouldn't want to live down there.
Yeah.
Okay, especially around the Panhandle or the Louisiana area.
Yeah.
Because that's where they often hit.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So what can a tenant do?
First of all, the tenant can make sure they have insurance. To help.
Actually, that's a fair point to get to, and we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. First things first. It's just hitting. It's right now, and you just grabbed your phone before it went out the window. Thank you. Right. What can you do? You call the landlord and you notify them in writing immediately.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. If the power doesn't go out.
Yeah. And yeah, with a mobile phone, etc., you're on the phone to them immediately, and hey, Mr. Landlord, just had a tree fallen on the unit, right? I suggest that you follow up with writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, writing is good.
Yeah.
So they have that, and then they won't say, "Oh, they didn't tell me."
Well, the next step is, in the aftermath of everything, go and document the damage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Any out of pockets, pictures, videos, whatever you can grab.
Yeah. Put everything. Take pictures of everything. Third thing, of course, it's rent day tomorrow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do not withhold the rent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Doesn't matter what the landlord does. It is your duty as a tenant to pay your rent and pay it on time.
Yeah. The only exception would be if the whole place was torn down and destroyed.
Absolutely. If there
And that
was,
would be force majeure.
yeah.
But most of the time when these things happen, it's not that way.
No, if yours is the only unit destroyed, again, that's possibly, if yours is the only unit destroyed and it's open to the elements, that may be a force majeure position.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if every other unit in the residential complex is fine, then you got to pay. And yours is fine. You pay the rent. You let the landlord know about the storm. What happened, what the after effects are. I also first steps first before you do anything else. Right. Find out what your legal rights are.
Yep, absolutely. Give us a call. Something happened, give us a call, and we'll let you know what you need to do.
Yeah. And that's an important point, because the thing is that one of the ways is, well, you might shrug your shoulder and say, well, so what? I can find myself another apartment, or I can, so I needed a new bed anyway. Yes and no.
Mm-hmm. But you want to choose when to get your new bed. Okay.
Quite.
Don't have everything chosen for you.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why, realistically, you should look at what your legal rights are. But of course, it's up to you as an individual. So then one of the things you can also do then is file an application with the LTB.
Yep.
Right. I'm going to ask you a question, because it's an important question for people. what have you done? What about insurance?
Should have it. Tenants should have insurance. Landlords should have insurance. And landlords should have the right kind of insurance. I think that landlords sometimes forget, well, I have homeowners insurance. No, you should have landlord's insurance
Yeah.
because you're
Well,
renting out the house to someone else who might turn around and destroy the place.
well, there's two things at play there with insurance, of course, is a tenant gets tenant insurance, and the tenant insurance is largely about, in this storm scenario, is largely about covering a portion of the cost, which will ensure that things like beds and personal belongings are seen to. Any water damage that impacts things like personal belongings would be seen to. The landlord part of the insurance is there to ensure that actually the rental unit is repaired.
Yep.
Right?
And the thing too is the landlord, if your your rental unit is reparable, right? Yes, you may be asked to leave it for a little while and come back after. They can't just throw you out.
Yeah.
Right? You have to they have to let you back in, and they have to store your belongings in a safe place. Okay, so if there's a flood in your unit or some kind of fire that took place and some things are smoke damage, the landlord has to take the stuff, put them somewhere safe, and then bring people in to start fixing the place up. And at some point, you can come back and have access to your belongings, and then you can come back to the place at a time when it should be available.
And in fact, actually, we talked earlier on about if let's say we were talking about a sixplex that was hit by a tornado, and yours was the only one of the six that was made impossible to live in. Well, even there, you would actually be in a situation whereby you'd negotiate with the landlord about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah. They have to look at the reparability of it. The insurance company can give an idea to the landlord if that can be repaired.
Yeah, and largely, largely it's easy to kind of repairability is an important information, and the tenant is not an expert at it. The landlord's not an expert at it. You and I are not experts at this thing.
That's why they bring insurance adjusters in, and adjusters bring in experts. Okay, so they look at it and then they put an estimate at about how much it'll cost and how long it'll be to have it fixed.
Yeah. And that's the important point. I would say that as a tenant, you would be best around, even if you were tending to say, okay, my place has been destroyed. I'm likely to be out of my place for at least 3 months. Why don't I find myself a new apartment? Even if that you were persuaded that might be the right approach, I would suggest that you'd probably be better off waiting till you understand what the quotes are, insurance quotes are. The landlord should be putting you up in a hotel in the meanwhile.
Yep, that's what insurance is for.
Yep. Right. Exactly. That's a part of the landlord insurance.
The landlord puts you up in a hotel for a few days and until they can get people in and look at the situation and what they can do. And then they can inform you and says, yes, you can come back to your unit, but it's going to take us, say, 3 or 4 weeks or a month to fix this place. So what we can do is have you stay at a hotel for about a month, or if you could stay somewhere else, like with family or something, and then come back and then you can return to your unit.
Yeah.
But one thing a landlord should not do is lock them out.
And again, how often does that happen, Angela?
Oh, we see it all the time.
Yeah. I have to say that bad landlords, they kind of, even though the storm came in from the mid-Atlantic, they say, yeah, you as a tenant, I know you did it, right?
Yeah, you caused the storm to happen. You seeded the clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you weren't in a million miles of the place, right?
Yeah. Exactly. You're in Florida.
Well, wherever you are is immaterial, and it's not your fault as a tenant. Even if you're behind on your rent, right? It's not your
Mhm.
fault,
Yep.
right?
And it's only arrears of rent that are there, but this is the kind of thing they have to treat you properly, and things have to go through due process. The Residential Tenancies Act covers these things.
Well, there's a brochure by the LTB that talks about some of this, and they're talking about maintenance and repairs mainly. But the whole is talking about the worst aspects of maintenance and repair of this maintenance and repairs. What happens when an emergency happens, and for example, things that need to be in working order is things like electrical, plumbing, heating system, appliances, carpets, um, in the unit or common areas, good walls, good roofs, good ceilings, windows, doors, locks, lighting, all working, garages, laundry rooms, patios, walkways, where those are provided. Not all. That's a big list. Not all of them
Mhm.
necessarily apply to every residential unit out there. But when any one of those breaks, a landlord is responsible to fix it.
Yep.
And very often, things like fire safety laws all exist in order that um, they help the people living in the places.
Yeah. The first priority of fire safety laws is to save lives.
Yeah, and generally in the aftermath of a storm, fire safety laws may come into play.
Yep. Exactly. Many times electrical things can happen.
Well, for example, one of the first people, the person who might kick you out of your unit might well be the fire safety officer
Hmm.
or fire
Things have
marshal.
fallen in and it's not safe to get in or out of your unit.
Yeah,
Okay, so they would come in and they would say it's not safe at this point. So they'd have you stay over somewhere, and they would inform the landlord and put one of those signs on the door about what they have to do before they can reoccupy the unit.
yeah, and that doesn't necessarily, if the landlord's taking care of this situation, doesn't normally result in a visit by the fire services person, but they could be just in the area at the time the
Yeah,
incident occurs.
yeah,
Right?
unless it's been a really serious emergency or something, where I've seen things happen where it could be serious emergency, say a house fire or electrical situation where there was an electrical blowout or something.
And again, that could be something that happens to a region. When you think about it, that it's normally 90% of the time when we have electrical blowouts, they are back on in 20 minutes or an hour or a couple of hours, right?
Except
But
when I'm by myself in the office. That's the only time they don't come on right away. So
that's
I
just,
have to leave.
that's just unfortunate. Um, but but yeah, but again, if you're at home, and that blows out and the entire neighborhood's down, you just got to keep yourself warm, keep yourself bundled up, and hope that you end up with the lights coming back on in an hour or less.
Yeah. Generally, what happened when they had the big power failure in 2003, everybody just got outside, went outside to find out what's going on.
Yeah, of
Hey,
course.
people are that way.
Well, of course. 2003. I think that we had a fire. I had 14 hours when the power went out in Midlands in the UK in 2003 as well.
Yeah, I don't know how far that thing went. We had three and a half days
Yeah,
of
we
this
had we had like 14
blackout,
hours.
and it was horrible. It was really deep, dark like it was really hot weather. And if you didn't have air conditioning, of course, they don't have air conditioning when the power's out, and people were miserable. Okay, so
of course, and of course, that's the point at which I suppose in places like New York they're cranking the sprinklers, aren't they? Off.
Yep.
The sprinklers.
Or they go around taking fits because they lose a fridge full of food, or different things happen to people. We just don't want to hear it. No.
One of the things that I never lost a fridge, but we lost the power for basically 14 hours. The fridge, if you didn't need anything in the fridge, keep the frigging fridge closed.
Yeah, you have to keep it closed if there is a power failure.
A freezer is actually designed to stay cold for at least 24 hours, to stay frozen for at least 24 hours.
Yep.
So the more you open it, can I have no ice creams, right? If you're sure if you're cooking tonight's meal, open it.
What happened when we had that 2003 blackout, people brought out meat and steaks and everything else, and they had these big barbecue in the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
So anybody who wanted to be part of it could join it. It was really something.
Yeah, so long as that's fine. So long as you open the fridge. As practical advice, just open the fridge as much as you need it. Close it immediately after you've done it.
Yeah, that's what these people did. They just took some stuff out, and other people took some stuff out, and then they decided to feed the neighborhood.
Okay, one of the things we were talking about there was insurance, right? Now, there's particular ways in which tenant insurance works together with landlord insurance.
Yeah.
And if either the tenant nor the landlord have got proper legal insurance, what happens?
Well, if the landlord has insurance but the tenant doesn't, but then there's something that the tenant did or something from the tenant's belongings caused the insurance. What if the tenant supplied a stove in the place and it was defective, and then the stove lit a fire and caused a problem? Or if the tenants were burning candles, and then their cat just happened to jump up on top of it and knock the candle over. Okay, so there's a lot of different things. So tenants have to be careful. Hey, I think if you have a cat, don't use candles, period. Just don't. But there's a lot of things you have to be very careful, right? If that. And then there's also, too, plugging things into the wall. If you have your own possession, like your own fridge, but you plug something into the wall and there's something wrong with the electrical, that's the landlord's responsibility, landlord's insurance. Okay? Because they interact.
Yeah.
And then if there's a fire or something, they talk to each other and they decide how much each is going to pay for the damage, who's going to fix what, and that sort of thing.
And that's the whole point about a lot of this, is you get this interplay between each of the insurance.
Yeah.
It seems at first you're double insured. Hey, we've got rental unit 123 Maple Street. I've got insurance as the tenant. You've got insurance as the landlord, right? I'm doubling up on the insurance, says both the landlord and tenant, but they are not.
Yeah, and tenant's insurance is very different than homeowner insurance. Hey, tenant's insurance usually covers your contents, covers anything that could cause, like your contents could cause problems. Hey, and sometimes your landlord may want extra insurance. Like we're in a commercial building here, so if somebody came and the windows got smashed, hey, our insurance would cover it for the landlord. So there's different things like that. There's kind of an exchange. Hey, but if something else happened, like wiring or something like that, that's on the landlord.
Yeah. Right, and so would it be, for example, if they cut through the power cable for the building?
Oh yes, or if they cut the cable for Cogeco. Okay, like you just see a little hand go down and snip. Anyway, oh boy.
The point about insurance, of course, is that it's easy to be cynical about insurance, but insurance is there precisely for this sort of thing, right?
Exactly.
And if you're now listening to this situation and you said, "Oh, okay, but I've not got tenant insurance right now. I'm a tenant. I've not got tenants insurance. I haven't paid tenants insurance since 2019. What do I do?"
Go out and shop and get insurance.
Yeah.
Okay? You can shop, and tenant insurance is fairly reasonable. Homeowners insurance is a little bit more, okay? But tenants insurance is fairly reasonable. So if you're living in an apartment building or even in a house that you're renting from a landlord, it's fairly reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if a landlord, obviously, we just talked about a storm. The storm happened yesterday. I contacted the landlord. He said, "Yeah, Peter, I've got it. I'm going to do something with it." And now we're day one. And one of the things about this is that you've got a whole heap of people to call, like the insurance company, like a lot of people to call, right, in relation to what's happened. And potentially the landlord might well be asking you to move all your stuff into a hotel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That obviously is going to take time.
Yep, that's going to take time because you got to pack up sort of what you would need to stay in a hotel for a little while, and then go to the hotel that, they have things like a Travel Lodge in Welland. Travel Lodge in Welland is used for a lot of that type of stuff when people get fires or have issues where they have to leave their residence.
Yeah. Well, okay, but now you've moved into a hotel, or maybe you're nice enough that your mother's available. Mother's taken you back in for a while. I'd be lucky at a 68-year-old. Moving back to my mother, wouldn't I? Be very lucky. Unusual.
But I don't think you'd be moving to your mother's.
No, not. It's most unusual, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the other question is, you may well have to tap into friends. It might be better than a hotel, but the question about a hotel might well come in two parts, because don't assume that just because you're moving into a hotel that you can get your meals paid for by the landlord.
Yep, that's something that the landlord usually just covers your accommodation costs.
Yeah. And for example,
And sometimes the landlord will say, "Okay, I'm going to give you $50 a day for your meals," right?
well, actually,
But that would be the choice.
there's a situation though whereby if your kitchen is accessible back at the rental unit, then you have the right to cook meals back at the rental
They'll
unit.
have you go back and you can cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So in that scenario where your kitchen is available back in the rental unit, do not assume that you're going to get any benefit from being in a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the thing is, it's not time to party either.
No.
Okay. We've had tenants that, we were representing the landlord, and the landlord had to cover the cost of tenants to move into a hotel. And then the tenants went to the hotel and they partied and they smashed the walls and did a lot of damage at the hotel.
Yeah.
They're even worse than rock bands.
Yeah. And that was the worst of it, especially, in that particular scenario. Yeah. And
don't do that if you're a tenant and you're going to a hotel.
Be reasonable. Be a reasonable person. So, but again, you've moved that, you've kind of gone to the hotel, or you've found somewhere else to go. Say you're maybe living with your parents for now, or a friend, and but now 3 months have moved on.
Yep.
The landlord's done nothing.
Yeah.
Or has he?
Yep. You have a right to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay? Especially if the place has been deemed repairable
Yeah.
and you will be eventually moving in. One thing they can't do is they can't move another person in while you're there. Like, say they start doing renovations and everything else, and then they decide, like you were paying $1,200 a month there for your one bedroom apartment. So then they do all kinds of renovations, and then they start charging $1,800 a month and move somebody else in. Can't do that. You
Yeah.
might even have a case against the landlord as a lockout,
Yeah.
and then you can apply for a T2.
Sure. The other question though is, okay, so you've been there 3 months. The landlord's done nothing, or at least you think he has done nothing. But he writes enough to he's kept you up to date with a few things and given you a few scraps of information. Now the clock's moving on. It's 5.5 months since this has gone on, and the landlord seemingly in the same position as before. What do you do?
Well, this is when you make an application to the board, hey, and you say that this is a T2 application. Hey, it would be an equivalent to a lockout. That's how I would argue it.
Okay, but you've already started a T6 application a while back.
What?
You started a T6 application a
Yeah,
while back.
but now a T2.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if this was repairable, you have a right to move back in a unit and you have to be kept informed. And then you get a right first refusal to move back into the unit. But if they're not doing that, they're just slowing things down so they want to frustrate you to a point so that you're going to just say, I'm just going to move and that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, then the landlord goes, yippee! Now I can charge twice as much rent. Hey,
So you
that is also something you can take action on.
so you have a T2 application and you put it to the board and you find somebody who finds the nicest form of words to say, I need you need this board needs to listen to this quickly. Now we're at 7.5 months, and the board listens to you as a tenant, and says, "Oh, we find you have the right to move back in." And the landlord sits there and goes, "The place is not ready yet."
Well, this is what they do, that the person would have a right to retrieve belongings. They would have a right to move back in. They cannot rent it to anybody else. They can make an order on these things. And if the landlord rents it to somebody else, they would not only have to compensate you, they would also have to pay a fine to the board.
Yeah, actually, that's an important aspect to this
Yeah.
because I was being particularly obstinate as a landlord and
Yeah.
disrespectful to the board
And
by
these things happen. These things happen because there's many different ways landlords try to get people to move on.
yeah.
And that's one of them, the way Peter's
So
describing.
yeah, so and I've done this deliberately because I've met every one of these circumstances. So where we've moved on from 7.5 months, and the board has issued an order against the landlord to get the work complete and to make the unit inhabitable again.
Yeah.
But
And
now
so the
we've
tenant
moved on.
finds that somebody else has moved in, so they make an application. And then, hey, that landlord can be in some problems.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say we've moved on to now 11 or 12 months since the thing,
Yeah.
and at
You
the
can have
moment,
these orders hurried up. We just did one and we got the order to hurry it up the next day. We asked for it and got it the next day, and it's coming up the date
yeah. But
with
I'm
respect
trying to
to
just
a quick
I'm just
turnaround.
trying to paint an overall picture of
Yeah,
various time shots in time.
yeah,
So
and this is why when something happens like this, talk to legal representation.
yeah,
We know how to do it. We know which forms to fill out. We know how to say what we need to say to get something done.
yeah. All right. And there comes a time also when the reason I was saying when you're 11 or 12 months down the line, when a new T2 application about the landlord ignoring board orders may well become valuable.
Exactly. And there's also an application for an order from the board.
Yeah,
Okay. because the order was made, and you can ask for a fine, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And the point being,
Forget which one that is, but I will look at it and I can find it.
yep, we need that for one of our clients right now.
Yep.
So then there is another thing to consider as well, and I don't raise this lightly, but we've seen in the pictures that I painted here a blatant disregard by the landlord for the tenant's rights over time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a tenant may contact local city property standards if the landlord is slow in responding to fixtures, to repairs to the property.
Yep, exactly. They will go in and they'll say, by this such and such a date, you better have done something.
Yeah.
Of course, the landlord can appeal it, okay, through their internal appeal process. But these dates, they don't like to let these things go on too long. We've
Yeah.
had one where we had a serious infestation of rats, where the rats were basically signing the rent receipts. So we've had to do something about that. So we've had to contact the city. They came down, and then they made an order to the landlord to hire someone specialized in rodent infestation. So they brought a pest control company around here that does that type of work, and they told them they had to stick to a certain program. And then the landlord just, oh, lazy, I didn't want to follow up with this program. You have to keep at it sometimes,
Yeah.
because if the pest control people say they have to come back each month to do something, the landlord has to pay for them to come back each month.
Yeah.
Right? And if they're not doing it, then the city could start making an order and non-compliance.
And for example, calling somebody like local city property standards, whether or not you're legally represented, it's the tenant's duty to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Right.
these are property standards type stuff. Water getting into the unit, structural damages, rodent infestations, things like that, that property standards needs to know about.
Yeah. And we know we know there are landlords out there that are pushing the system.
Oh yeah, like they just well, they like to take advantage of the system, and all they care about is collecting rent.
Yeah.
Like they'll be right at your door when rent is due, but
Right.
when you call them up for something that needs to be repaired, they're nowhere to be found.
All right. So this has been a kind of an oddity, an oddball thing, and we've kind of been on a roller coaster ride about, environmental damage to a property, and with good reason. So I hope you've learned something through this. And if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Email Angela through her email at angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself, my email is peter@weareinvictus.legal, and weareinvictus.legal is our website. And to sign us out for the evening.
So what you heard today on Spin Legal, whether it's in this show or others in our series, this is not legal advice. So if you need legal advice, please contact a paralegal or a lawyer, and we'd love you to contact us if you need to contact us. We're happy to help. We serve tenants and landlords throughout the province of Ontario. So just contact us through the means that we just presented. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
All right. And have a great weekend or week, and we shall see you next Tuesday.
Yep.